treat employees like they make a difference, and they will. Jim Goodwill said that once. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, episode 46, The Importance of Employee Welfare and Relations with Adam Brown. Hey everybody, it's your host and founder of the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, Scott McCarthy. Welcome back. If it's not obviously your first time listening, but if it is your first time listening, welcome. You've come across a podcast designed with one main goal and one main goal only, to make you a better leader. And that doesn't matter if you're in small business, big business, nonprofit, government, or even a stay-at-home parent even. This podcast and my mission is solely based around making you a better leader. I come from a background of going over 20 years of leadership experience, with the predominance of it in the Canadian Army. However, the true strength of this podcast is the guests, the world-class guests that I bring on, and drawing out their experience coupled with mine to give you a show revolving around leadership and actionable advice and tips and guidance to make you a better leader today as soon as you listen to this podcast. So welcome aboard. It's great to have you on. And you know where else it would be great to have you on? That would be the Moving Forward Leadership Mastermind. If you just go to movingforwardleadership.com/mastermind, that's going to take you to our closed Facebook group. And in there, you're going to find myself and a load of other people. But do you know who else you're going to find in there? You're going to find most of the guests that have been on the show. That's right. I invite every single guest of the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast to the mastermind, including today's guest, Adam Brown, who I'll talk to about in a minute. But they're all there, and you're not going to find that anywhere else. Find a podcast where openly the guests are invited to a group, and you can interact with them as you see fit in there. It's pretty sweet, don't you think? So swing by again, movingforwardleadership.com/mastermind, and join and come have conversations revolving around leadership. So let's talk about today's episode, shall we? Today we're going to be talking about employee welfare and building relationships with your employees. And this is something near and dear to my guest's heart, Adam Brown. Now, full disclosure, Adam is one of my best friends. I'll throw it out there. He and I joined the Canadian Army together at the exact same time. We went through the Royal Military College together and graduated at the exact same time. And lo and behold, we were both posted to Edmonton. Heck, he even crashed in my condo while I was serving in Kandahar, and he took care of it for me. That's how close we are. And it's pretty funny that he's finally on my show. But Adam's got a great background. He served as an armored officer in the Canadian Army. He's deployed to Kandahar, Afghanistan himself. And he eventually released from the regular force, transferred to what we refer to as the reserve force in the Canadian Army, and is now working full-time with as an accountant out in Vancouver, BC. As well, Adam has his own company called Vanguard Accounting, which he'll talk a bit about later in the show. But true to his heart, it's all about employee welfare and building relationships, which is what we talk about throughout this episode. For the show notes for today's episode, if you just go to movingforwardleadership.com/38, that's 38, you're going to be taken to the show notes there for the episode. So sit back now, relax, and enjoy two friends basically getting caught up and talking about employee welfare and building relations. Adam, brother, welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, man.
All right. Thanks, Scott, for having me.
You're, mellow as always, right?
Yeah, yeah, I am from Vancouver. So, well, I live in Vancouver. I shouldn't say from
Whoa,
Vancouver. I'll get in
whoa,
trouble with you there. But we'll get into that a bit later, I guess.
whoa. Yeah, yeah. Don't say that. Don't give up your roots right away.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, the first thing I always like to do with my guests, being the standard military thing, I think it is get the guests to give a quick background on who they are, where they come from, and I guess for you, I don't know how deep you want to go because we're going to talk a bit about military life and private sector life and entrepreneur life and a bit of everything. But just give us 30,000-foot view, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I'll try to go through quick, but originally from Newfoundland, we're Newfoundlanders, but joined the military right out of high school. Went to the military college with them. Was an armored officer after graduating from RMC. Held the lofty positions of an accounts officer at one time. Tank troop leader, where I deployed to Afghanistan in 2009, and then an armored school instructor, basically teaching what I had just done. That was about it for my military career. It was 10 years. I decided to try something else. Left and became a public accountant. Worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is one of the largest accounting firms in the world. I had the opportunity to work with large and small companies of different industries and different backgrounds. Got to go to second to PwC San Jose, which was kind of interesting because I got to deal with a lot of tech clients there. And then I decided to make a change and open my own business, my own public accounting firm, which is Vanguard Accounting, to help small businesses grow. So that's a quick intro of myself.
Awesome. Full disclosure, Adam, or I may from time to time refer to him as Brownie, is probably one of my closest buddies going through to college. So just full disclosure. And he is a Newfoundlander, just like myself. And actually, you're the second Newfoundlander interviewed on the show, believe it or not.
Okay.
But you'll be the first one to air due to scheduling. So
that means that I'm first.
Yeah, you'll be kind of first. So for daddies out there, this is going to be a little bit about a couple of buddies getting caught up as well while we talk.
Hopefully we don't go into the accent too much on this.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Just slow it down by like 0.75 and you'll be good.
Yeah, fair enough.
So the first, the core thing I'd like for us to get into today is just, discuss those key leadership lessons you learned from your experience in the military and, especially your time as a tank troop commander over in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I was just wanting to focus on kind of one of those principles today that was taught to me from the very beginning. And it was know your soldiers and promote their welfare. Okay. If you keep that in mind, the old adage being, you look after your troops, they'll look after you. Right. I think this is not so well done in some companies and different businesses. And it's a common theme I've seen come up again and again when I'm talking to small business owners. So I think that's the one I wanted to focus on tonight.
Cool. So, where did the core, can you dive into the core aspect of that being ingrained into you through your military experience?
About knowing your soldiers and promoting their welfare? Yeah. So, this is basically everything runs based on your soldiers. You know what I mean? Like, you have to give out the orders and they have to go about and doing the actions and completing the mission, right? Mm-hmm. So inherently, success is based on them, right? And their engagement, their buy-in, and their loyalty. You know what I mean? If they don't have that buy-in or engagement, things can go bad pretty quick, right? And I think if they know you have their best intentions in heart, like you're looking after them, they're more willing to deal with the work and make it happen, even if it's a super difficult task that may put their lives on the line. You know what I mean? So they're more willing to go forward with that because they know they're cared for, they're looked after, and they're promoting their, they're looking after soldiers. You don't want to follow someone that, is unjustly or unduly going to put them in harm, right?
Yeah.
And that's, obviously coming down to the point of promoting their welfare, obviously, you know what I mean? So, Yeah, I think it was harped on since the days of university. You know what I mean? How that is a precious resource. It is a resource. Your people are a resource, right? And you got to realize each of them are a bit different, and you got to deal with them a bit different way to maximize their potential. So.
No, it makes absolute sense, right? I always say is that my job is here is to enable you to be the best version of you as possible, give you the tools and resources, whether that's physical or mental, to get the job done on my behalf. And I think that's always been, kind of that core mantra of that principle of leadership, of just making sure that people are taken care of, because at the end of the day, you're not going to get squat done yourself as a leader. It's them doing it on your behalf. And if you don't take care of them, they're not going to, be able to do it for you. Right.
Yeah. And there's some quotes out there. The biggest attribute or the biggest reward of a leader is producing other leaders. You know what I mean? So, hopefully if you know your soldiers and promote their welfare, they'll become leaders in their own regard, and they'll take that on board and follow that for when they are in positions of leadership. So,
right on. So, is there like a certain time for your experience, your life in the Army that really sticks out? Do you have a specific story that you like to tell or memory?
I really think it was after I got out of the military. I think it was such an ingrained thing that it was always at the forefront of my thought, of my thinking, that, hey, I got to look after these guys. I got to look after them. What courses do I got to put them on? Or what's their family situation like? Or, how do they like the work and stuff like that? This was always on my mind, I think, as a troop leader, especially when you're down to, 16 guys, 16 soldiers, right? Like, you can easily know them fairly well.
Yep.
And I found a big switch when I left the military and then started working in industry and different corporations and how they viewed it. And they seemed to treat people more as numbers. And it was funny. One of my feedbacks at one time was basically you push back towards management. Like, hey, you push back either deadlines or ask questions or inquire or whatever. And they said, that could be seen as a bit of confrontational. And I'm like, no, I'm looking after my people effectively, because I don't want my, associates that were working with me to get, overworked or, put on the wrong task or anything like that. Right. So I actually found it hit home more when I was outside of the military. And then also when I talk to new business owners, this is a common thing that comes up where I'm trying to figure out how to get my people to engage, how to get buy-in, how to exhibit loyalty, really, at the end of the day. And most people don't really know their employees. They think they know them. They think they're motivated by the same things as them, but that's not typically the case. So I think it's more so when I've been outside the military that I noticed it. You see the change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, there wasn't any particular thing that comment per se on a feedback was kind of interesting to hear. And I was like, yeah, maybe I do, but there's a reason why I do it. So
that's it. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I guess, I'm still in. So
yeah.
I haven't crossed that line yet. So well, I don't have the experience of it, but no, it's interesting. It's interesting to hear that, it's that, companies look at people as more of a numbers, and it's like, heck, we always joked around in the Army, like they gave us a service number for a reason, right?
No, it's true. Yeah. And you know what? I when I came out and went into industry and stuff like that, I will even talk to some people and said I felt more valued in the military, even though I was in a profession that I was replaceable. There's built-in redundancies built into that system. If I were to say, something go wrong and stuff like that, someone can step up and take my place. But so I felt more valued in the military in that regard. There was more emphasis on knowing you and promoting your welfare because they could ask you to go to that ultimate sacrifice potentially.
Yeah.
While in some companies, that's not such the case. 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, whatever it is, depending on what industry you're in. And you kind of are a number. It's hey, okay, you're a resource. I can put you here, and you can work on this, and then I can move you over here, and then I can do this, without any regard to what your interests are.
Mm-hmm.
So, and your loading per se, like workload. So.
Yeah, for sure. It's the Army and life in the Army. It's definitely built a system of replacement. Right, one goes down, someone else steps up, and I kind of joked with my boss about that the other week, actually, and luckily did get in trouble. But it's all good. So, what are some key ways out there for the leaders out there today? That you've learned of how can they get to know their people?
Yeah, if I could just break it down into two things. So, know your soldiers and promote the welfare. Okay, so there's two actions in here, know and promote, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I think with some elements of knowing your people, and this can relate to clients as well if you're in a service-based business, and this could relate to family potentially. If I know if I go out to get something to eat, I better pick up something for my my girlfriend. Otherwise, she's going to be very angry at me. But some things to deal with this is, know what their situation is. In terms of family goals, that sort of thing, right? Typically in the military, you would have a little bit of an interview initially when a soldier comes into your unit, and you go through these things and you ask about their interests or what their goals are, what courses they want. And this helps build a bit of a picture about them, right?
So just a quick question on that. Did you get that similar experience in private sector?
As you can see me smile here. No, I did not at all. So in industry, the industry I was in is in public accounting. So it was quite large, but it was kind of a matrix type of leadership system or team system, I should say, where you move to different teams based on every week, and you kind of have a different manager on the file. You do have a coach that's your person that's kind of like a troop leader of some sorts.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit less responsibilities than that, obviously, but they really just, okay, what industries do you want to work on, where do you want to go, or what's your plan, and they were just surface-based questions, and
no real depth to them, right?
Yeah, there was no depth. It was just, hey, what's your name? Oh, okay, where are you from? Okay, those sort of things. But there was really no knowledge of myself. I felt it was just surface level. What you would do in an HR department. Okay, I got your social insurance number. I got your birthday. Okay, I got you the necessary things that I need to know about you to put you into our system, get you paid, that sort of thing. So no, it did not feel the same way. As a new 2LT showing up at the regiment, I'm getting called into the CO's office on the first day, and it was basically, here, we're having a half hour, 45-minute conversation. Tell me a bit about yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I did not feel that with the industries or in the companies that I worked in. So,
no, that's for all the people I've talked to. One, not surprising, but two, definitely sad, right? And I don't quite understand why companies don't take the time to actually do get to know their people, and of course, obviously, we're stereotyping, right? Because I'm sure there are some companies out there, and there's some managers or team leads or whatever out there that don't fit this. But at the same time, as a stereotype, I don't understand why companies just don't take the time. And it doesn't take that long. You schedule it, you put it in the schedule, and you get it done as a team lead, and you interview your people, your new folks, and you're right. You go beyond those surface level questions. What actually makes them tick? What are their true strengths? What are their true weaknesses? Yeah. A couple things so that you know how you can probably employ them in a better way for the organization's needs, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think some people think that the hiring process does this. And I think there's got to be two interviews. The hiring process is one element that has to be dealt with, which may be 2 or 3 interviews, but that's more of an assessment whether you're a right fit with
exactly.
I think even after that, there has to be another interview where, okay, you're Adam Brown, my employee. Okay, let's see what it is about you. How can I maximize your potential, within our team, and go about it that way, right? So I think that's the thing that's being dropped. So
no, I definitely can see how that would happen for sure, and all the people I've talked to today kind of resonate with that, and yeah, it's sad ultimately. So let's change gears a little bit and let's talk about promotion and welfare. We've talked about getting to know your people, and it's getting, obviously the core takeaway there is getting past those surface level questions, actually getting deep into knowing about the individual, what makes them tick, where they see themselves in 10, 20 years, whatever, what are their goals, what's their family situation, life like that. How do we move past that and then actually going into promoting their welfare as a leader?
Yeah, and I relate this down to some of my experience, but I work in an industry in accounting that some people like to work on their own, right? Some people like to work in teams, and I think if you can get that from knowing someone how they best work, and that's just simply a question with them, I think you can gear their tasks towards that. For example, a painting company I have that I work with, is that if someone likes it working in a team, okay, let's put them on painting the exterior of the house versus, say, painting the living room within that house. That might be good for the person that likes to work by themselves, right? So I think that's one element. You get information about family and stuff. They may have kids that are in hockey or something like that. They might prefer a flexible work arrangement where maybe they leave a little bit early on Friday because their kids have a hockey tournament on the weekend out of town or something like that. Also, some people prefer to work at different times. I find if you get me in the morning, oh, okay, I'm bang on. You start coming to me in the evening, oh, that's when it gets a little troublesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The same thing with that. What training to provide them? What jobs to put them on? Maybe they want to know about a certain type of industry. For example, in accounting, some people really like financial services, let's say, and they want to work with banks and learn that because maybe that's what they want to move on to, right? Simple things of local work versus travel work. Usually younger people like to travel a lot, and they usually like to travel around and do works that are outside of their local city. Usually as you get more connections, more family, you probably want to stay local. And then awards, I think this is the biggest one, is how are you going to reward or award your people within your company? I know a lot of people who default to bonus. I'm going to bonus out. I'm going to give them a bonus, and money is going to motivate them. That's going to be their driving factor. But there are other things, like, for example, time. I know my driver is time. That's what I like the most. I will pay more money to save time. I know I will do that. So some people like recognition in front of the group. That's another way to go. And some people like gifts that are kind of personalized to them. I think that's some of the ways you can look at promoting the welfare of your people through both, the work taskings, kind of how they work, and things to reward good work, let's say.
Yeah, no, I like all that. It's so true. Like the type of work and the work arrangements, obviously, flexibility, and we hear a lot about that now, work-life balance and increasing flexibility in the work front, and technology is definitely a good way to leverage that today. Being able to work remotely from home, and it all depends on the type of business, obviously, you're in. Obviously, if you're in a client service industry, like you're a bank teller, then, well, obviously you can't work from home. But, if you're a person that's driving the desk all day and working on your own, then yeah, you can obviously work from home, right? The awards and recognition part is definitely something interesting, and I'll use myself as a good example here. Like when I got promoted to major, if they could have offered me, okay, you can either take the increase in pay or you can get another, we'll say 3 days off of of vacation time for the year, it would have been a tough decision for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's just because of my personal circumstance, right? Because obviously my wife Julie is working, so not that we're like, you know, throwing money around everywhere, but you know, it definitely would be a decision that we could make, especially that now we got a son, and there's times now that we actually have to worry about vacation days for things that we hadn't had to in the past. So those 3 days actually become more meaningful to me than, you know, the extra 10, 12, 20 grand or whatever it was over a year, right? That you get paid. So it's something that, yeah, you can definitely look at. And if you know, obviously the bigger the organization is, the more difficult these types of things become, especially in the junior, you know, mid managers. But if you're in a smaller business, you can definitely start looking at some of these things.
Yeah, exactly. And like a quick example was a personal training company that I work with, and he was trying to figure out a way of how to get the people kind of bringing in more clients and doing more personal training hours. And he was just trying to give them more money. Okay, you'll get a bigger cut of the fee, right? And it wasn't working for him, and he didn't realize why. And I said, you got to look back and see what they valued. And most of his personal trainers valued their time. You know, they
100%.
They wanted to just make enough money to kind of live and enjoy their life. That was what they valued. So maybe you adjust the way you help them out. Maybe you compress their training sessions into 4 hours, 5-hour block. So it's a very good block. They get it done within the day. And now they have the other 19 hours in the day to go enjoy their life, right? So maybe that's a different way you go about the trying to get them to go out and bring in more clients. So
yep, no, for sure. Basically, the more you empower your people, you know, the harder they'll work for you. And if you do a results driven organization, versus clock watching, as I like to refer to it as, it'll definitely pay dividends, no doubt. So I'd like to just change gears a little bit. You know, we've gone over knowing people and promoting people's welfare and stuff like that. Through your time, you know, both military and now private sector / entrepreneurial life, you know, what have been some of those key lessons learned that you've had through this time?
Yeah, so I won't touch on so much the officer side. Like I think we probably touched that one. Like I could not have, you know, troop leaded for 6 months overseas without my guys. You know, like, and at the end of the day, they're like family. You know, so I needed them every step away, and they helped me, and hopefully I helped them as well. But I basically, when I left, I kind of start over again. You know, I had to find a new job, start a new thing, you know, go with a new company. And because I was out in Vancouver, there's not a lot of a military presence. There's not a big military presence out here. So not a lot of people know, you know, the background of the military and okay, what an officer is and da-da-da-da. So you kind of have to educate people at the time. But the lesson learned I found there is that you don't really have to be in a leadership position to do this, to promote the welfare of your other people. It can be used if you're at the lower ends of a company where you might just have one or two people below you that are, or even your peers potentially, right? Because you know what they're going through. And I would always advise people to kind of try to incorporate this and look after the people below you. And I think if we build that, then, you know, everyone will be looked after, right? Like the level above you will look after you, and then that level will look after itself, and on and on and on. But you know what your peers have gone through, or the people that are just coming in behind you, and you know how to best promote their welfare, right? And I find if you do that and you look after them, I usually got better output and better teamwork, you know, out of these people. It was more of a team environment, and they were willing to pick up other work for other people or help out where they can because they know they're being looked after. Mm-hmm. Also, when they were there, they were producing more, right? Like they were finishing off the work, you know, while if you just said, okay, you're going to be here till 9 o'clock, no matter what, that output kind of drops off. So, and you know that well. So,
yep.
But yeah, that's what I found. And it's treating people like adults. You know what I mean? If you treat people like kids at times, they might act like a kid, but if you treat them like adults and hey, this is your responsibility. And then, yeah, okay, you can take this time off, but the expectation is that you finish this or you get this done here. And most people responded to that. They like to be.
Yeah. It's definitely it's almost like a chicken and egg story, right? And it's like one side argument is, well, they act like kids, so I'm going to treat them like kids. And they're like, well, the counter argument is if you treat them like adults, they're going to act like adults too, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've been in that argument.
Yeah, and it definitely is a balance. Don't get me wrong. Some people will take complete advantage of that, and they won't. They'll just take that time off and they won't produce more. But for the most part, people are good at heart, and yeah, they respect that and appreciate that.
Yeah, but that kind of boomerangs back to the whole intro of this episode, knowing your people. So once you get to know them deep down, you start realizing which ones you can actually lead in that way, and then the ones that you can't lead in that way, and you gotta have your thumb on them more, right? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It kind of goes full circle, right?
Yeah. And maybe you're building them up, maybe throughout your time with them, you know what I mean? And maybe it takes a year to get to a certain point. And yeah, everyone's a little bit different. Everyone grows at a different rate. And yeah, you just got to know your people.
Yeah. Sounds so easy.
Yeah, it is. Technically, in theory, it's easy, but it means getting out there and talking to people.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You can't do it behind the desk all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've seen it in military life, you've seen it in private sector life, but in your mind, what are some things businesses or organizations can do to immediately improve the way that they take care of their people?
Yeah, like I get it a lot now when I'm talking to businesses, because I typically, as an accountant, I'm only talking to business owners. Okay. So I'm hearing about their struggles and this, that, and usually I'm coming from the numbers perspective, but I hear a lot of people talking about employee engagement, their buy-in, their loyalty, and they're like, oh, they're not doing what I'm telling them to do, or, they're not putting their heart into it and stuff. And I think the most tangible step with your employees is talking to them. You know what I mean? Basically, like I alluded to before, is having that interview with that person, and not a superficial, like, we'll have a 5-minute interview. Hey, welcome to the group. You're going to be working with such and such a person. See you in a week or something like that. It's more, okay, let's block off an hour. Maybe we'll go get lunch, or maybe we'll be in your office or something like that. And you actually go through some of these things. Okay, what's your family situation? What things you want to learn? Is there certain things you want to do? And where do you see you going? What's your goals? And that sort of stuff. You can get into interests and such. If anyone talks to me for a bit, they'll know I like the Seattle Seahawks. And if you were going to get a gift, okay, get some Seattle Seahawks stuff, I guess. But I think it's getting down and having a good conversation, and allowing them to open up to have that conversation and not be afraid to say what they want or what they're going for. That could be being outside of your company in a couple of years. You gotta, okay, all right. It's not the greatest thing, but it's the best thing for them. That's where they want to go, and you can help them along that path, right?
Yeah.
And you never know, they might change their mind.
Well, end of the day, everybody leaves the organization they're in. We all gotta accept that fate, right? And the other part is that if you're empowering people within your organization, you're promoting them, you're taking care of their welfare, you're more likely to retain them longer.
Yes.
Right. And the other thing is, if you don't retain them in your organization longer and they go to another organization, well, you now have a friend in court in that other organization. And maybe that's something you can actually leverage in a business scenario. Right? Oh,
for sure. Yeah. Like, you have someone that works in a somewhat of a industry you might be working in, or they might be, able to hire you on as a business provider in some sort based on the industry you're in, right? So, karma is a thing out there. I figure if you put in, and you'll get it back, right? So, but even still, this conversation is not just strictly for employees either. This is if you're in a business and you're like, especially a service-based business, you can do this with clients, right? Me, myself, I can do this. Usually when I bring on new clients, I sit down and have a conversation with them. Okay, what's your business goals? What do you find you're good at, and what do you think you're not so good at, or areas to improve? How do you want me to communicate with you? Some prefer email, text, or phone, and you adjust for that client. And I think that provides a better experience for your client, which will usually mean that you retain them longer. So.
Yeah. No, makes absolute sense for sure. It goes full circle, right? I mean, you can lead people within your organization. You also lead clients. You can lead up. You can lead it across. You can lead down. So, slowly starting to wrap up here, Brownie, buddy.
Yeah.
Just one last question before we dive into the end here. But how do you feel that your leadership experiences have shaped you as an entrepreneur now that you're running your own business?
How has it shaped me as an entrepreneur? My leadership experience.
Yeah.
Let's see.
This question was obviously not pre-planned, folks.
I think it makes it like you're calmer. I think my leadership experiences. I've seen a variety of different things, different events, different experiences, different situations. So I'm not worried when something comes up. I remain calm and look at it. Okay, let's break this down. Where am I going to go with this? So I think it's just being calm, collected. Okay, and you can tackle anything, because you're confident in yourself and you've seen so many things. So you're able to adjust. It may not be that exact situation, but you're like, okay, that was good. I can bring that to this table and I can apply this to this situation. So I think that's probably the biggest one, remain calm and cool.
No, it's definitely a key one, right? Especially in times of crisis or high stress zones, for sure.
Yeah.
Remaining cool and calm is definitely much needed. For anybody, you obviously are a longtime listener of the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, so you do know what the last question is.
Oh, yeah.
being a guest on the show. So, in the eyes of Adam Brown, what makes a great leader?
So should I go with like the topic of discussion for this whole podcast?
Yeah, I probably could see it coming.
Well, maybe we won't go with that. Something along the same veins, but it has guided me well. Mission, men, self, right?
Yeah.
That's a guiding principle. You can adjust that, clients, men's, employees, self, you keep that in mind. You keep chugging along with that, and you'll usually be in good stead.
No, absolutely makes sense for sure. All right, Adam, man. I like to flip the mic over at this point in the show. So, if people are interested, who you are, what you're doing, how can they reach out to you? Feel free to give yourself a shameless plug.
Okay, yeah. So it is tax time, so maybe people might be wondering about this. But yes, I am a full-service accounting firm that's basically primarily cloud-based, so I can work with people across the country. Basically, I'm working towards saving people time, energy, and money. And I think as an accountant, if I can deliver on that, you'll be happy with the experience no matter what. Because every business owner doesn't have enough time, doesn't have the energy to deal with books or accounting and all this compliance stuff. And saving some money always helps, right? With that being said, I use some of this leadership experience to help new business owners succeed and deal with some of these problems that they have coming up. Managing employees and dealing with issues and concerns and that sort of stuff. But if you want to know more, you can visit my website at vanguardcpa.ca, or you can shoot me an email at adam@vanguardcpa.ca.
Awesome. And for the audience, as always, we make it easy for you here at Moving Forward Leadership. You just check that out in the show notes with the link I mentioned earlier today. One, great having you on the show. Two, great catching up again, as always. It's been far too long since we last chatted. And, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Scott.
All right, for the audience, I'm going to have my key takeaways from my show here with Adam Brown talking about taking care of your people and promoting their welfare in about 10 seconds time. So hope everyone enjoyed myself and Adam catching up and talking about leadership. It was pretty cool being basically completely on different ends of the country. He being in Vancouver, BC, I being in Kingston, Ontario. Sometimes it's hard to keep in touch, up to date, and all that jazz. So it's pretty funny that we got together, caught up before the show, talked about leadership during the show, and then carried on after the fact. But nonetheless, I do have some key takeaways for you today with my interview with Brownie. He pointed out that I only called him Brownie once on air. So there's number 2, Brownie. Oh, number 3. Anyway, key takeaways. Get past surface level questions is the first one. When we're talking with our people and actually truly caring about them and their welfare, get past those surface level questions such as, how are you? Or, what's your favorite book or your favorite activities? Dive deep into questions that really show, 1, you care, and 2, trying to pull out the true personality of your employees, right? And that could be, what are the things that you're most stressed about in life? What gets you worked up, anxious, angry? What makes you happy? What relaxes people? What are their true strengths? What do they enjoy doing? And that could all those types of questions can tell you a lot. And that's what we mean by getting past those surface level questions. The second key takeaway I got for you, and this one's popped up a few times, but it's still super important, is the recognition of people. It's something that doesn't get done enough in organizations, and I don't understand why. When people do a good job, recognize them. Now, keep in mind that I do fully acknowledge there has to be a balance, because if you recognize everybody for every little thing, then it becomes so diluted that the recognition is worthless. It's just like money. If the bank just printed money, the central bank just continued to print money, the dollar value would tank even more than what it is. But still, when people go about doing great work, they don't get recognized for it. And it's truly a pain point for a lot of employees out there. And if you go back to my episode with Heather Younger, she talks about that in employee loyalty. And that's one of the biggest reasons why people leave organizations, because they don't feel like they're getting any recognition. And the final key takeaway for you today is get out and talk to people. And I've talked about this before. So if you haven't heard me talk about this before, swing back and listen to a few episodes and you'll find it. Basically, you can't chain yourself to your desk. You have to get out and talk to your people. The first 30 minutes of every day I spend walking around and talking to those that are closest to me in my organization. The first 30 minutes. And that is building that rapport, building that relationship, listening to what they have to say, and taking care of their welfare so that they can bring things to the forefront for me. So get away from your desk, right? If you're in a large organization, walk around to different rounds, especially if you're in a physically large organization, such as a manufacturing plant. When was the last time you were down on the shop floor, just walking around? If you have people that are working across the city, when was the last time you got in your truck and drove around and visited them on job sites? Think about this. This is what we mean by get out and talk to your people. It shouldn't take an act of God for you as the leader to go out and see your people and talk to them. Talk to them about how they're doing. Talk about how life is. Talk to them about the game last night and ask them, how are things going? Once you build that rapport with them, then you're able to draw out the true problems and potential solutions to those problems to make your organization better. Well, that's all I got today, ladies and gentlemen. I truly hope you enjoyed my show with Adam Brown talking about employee welfare and building relations. I know I did. It's a topic that we're both passionate about, and taking care of your people, because in the end of the day, the people are the cornerstone of your organization. Without them, you have no organization and you're not a leader. So, until next time, keep pushing, keep trying, keep moving forward. Take care now.